And Kraftwerk themselves were fully aware of the flourishing world of disco.
At that time, we were going to the clubs frequently or regularly. I wouldn't say we were doing like pub crawling or club crawling, but you know, we were working in the evening, and then late at night at 12, 1 or even 2 o'clock, we were going to the clubs and we were listening to what was going on there. You had James Brown always in good clubs, like Sex Machine or Nature or all Papa Got a Brand New Bag, all these tracks which we liked very much because of this of the rhythm feel, of course. It was just a pictographical rhythm, just moving on with this groove forever. It was just what appeals to us very much.
Despite the band's interest in club music, Trans-Europa Express did not cross over into the mainstream and failed to chart in both the US and the UK. For all their technical mastery, Kraftwerk was still searching for a crossover hit to follow Autobahn.
It's interesting that Trans-Europa Express doesn't seem to make an enormous impact. Probably people had very much had their eye on like punk, new wave, and it was just a little ahead of its time. Only a little, but just a little ahead of its time at that point.
After we finished Trans-Europa Express, we went to Paris. We were going out at the mega disco at that time. I think it was a Palace Club or mega disco, thousands of people. And they put Trans-Europa Express on, and it wiped the dance floor completely. It wiped it empty. So again, Trans-Europa Express at that time was a really flop. Was a flop record.
Kraftwerk wouldn't have to wait long before their music was finally engaged by a worldwide audience. Electronic music had continued to develop through 1977, with the emergence of numerous post-punk bands who embraced the synthesizer, and the release of Throbbing Gristle's The Second Annual Report, the first notable industrial album. Bands such as New Yorkers Suicide and the British outfit Cabaret Voltaire were developing similar sounds. In 1978, the Yellow Magic Orchestra appeared with their self-titled debut, a pioneering Japanese outfit interested, like Kraftwerk, in a synthesis of electronics and pop music. They would prove a key influence for the movements yet to come. As a new electronic age was dawning, Kraftwerk returned to Kling Klang Studios for their next record. And having now kept their lineup constant for 2 albums, Schneider and Hutter invited Karl Bartos to become a creative member of the unit.
In the beginning, Ralph and Florian, they had this feeling of being part, I think, being part of an industry somehow, a cultural industry. And we were, Wolfgang and me, we were hired, called for some reason. We were studio musicians in the beginning, and later on, when I started being a composer and author on Man Machine, for me at least, it changed. Working together in the studio, and after 2 records, really, I was really invited to be part of the composer team because it came easy. I didn't have to prove anything. I proved it before, and so unfortunately, I was growing up to this easy pop music as well as on the classical background, so it really came easy. And the first thing I really composed on Man Machine was, I think it was a riff on Metropolis. Really, we were using at that time the sequencer, and Man Machine was the first record on which we could link the drums with the sequencer. So I didn't play the drums, it was played automatically by the drum machine. We came up with this, it was a Russian idea, we thought. It was somehow, it had to do with Metropolis, the movie. But when we first started improvising the tracks, at that time we did a lot of improvisations in the studio, we had this Russian feel. I think it captures the feel quite nicely from that. And then apparently robots, neon lights, and the model, yeah, really. So I think it was done in 6 weeks. Man Machine was recorded in 6 weeks using this fantastic new equipment. And it worked like clockwork, actually.
Released in May 1978, the Man Machine presented a new group image and more commercial content, and was a breakthrough for the band. With a controversial cover image referencing pre-war socialist and constructivist art, the album condensed the trademark Kraftwerk sound into even shorter tracks, and the notion of the band as music machines spread into their TV and live performances and photo shoots. The album went on to sell over 200,000 copies in France and charted for 13 weeks in the UK, where it peaked at number 9.
Man Machine, to me, has perhaps the most visually arresting Kraftwerk image, and it's the height of Kraftwerkers, provocateurs, posturing that kind of like rouge lipstick and those red shirts. I mean, the whole thing is derived, this sort of constructivist homage, but synth pop is already beginning to sort of happen when that comes along, and nothing could be calculated, to offend, especially kind of American audience, people who believe in the authenticity of the guitar, the sincerity of the open-necked, sort of hairy-chested, macho rock hero, the Bruce Springsteen type, whatever, the Bee Gees type, all this kind of thing. I mean, it offends on every level. I mean, I think that's wonderful about that.
Here they were kind of more of a band. They were an identical kind of unit, in the same way that the Ohio-based Devo had dressed themselves up in yellow outfits and came on as a kind of an army in a way. Kraftwerk were a kind of more haute couture army. It is a very good gimmick for that time to just say, well, we're a machine. Kraftwerk is a kind of man machine, and this is what we do. You just turn us on and we'll turn you on. That is the basic simplicity of what they were trying to do at that time.
It's where kind of Kraftwerk begin to detach themselves from the, as human beings really, from the concept. It's the beginning of the kind of the robotic kind of era of Kraftwerk. But Man Machine sold like 100,000 copies in the UK alone, charted and everything. And it had this wonderful song called The Model, which kept on charting. I think it got to number 1 in 91. I think Trans-Europa then charted because of it. Then it was re-released again. It was an ad. It kept going and going. But by that stage, they were so consummate in their abilities to make fantastic pop music out of what they were doing, and it was so honed and precise, and the sheen, and it was like it was almost like automatic music. They were just pumping this stuff. They were almost like they were basically the new Beatles.